Hey y'all, good to see you again. I assume you already saw my announcement video that I released yesterday, but if you haven't, I'll put a link in the show notes so you can check it out. Anyway, this is an overview video of my very first knit-along named Sara Dishcloth Knit-along. In this knit-along, you will be knitting this reversible dishcloth. It is about 9 inches wide and 7 inches high. It's a little bit smaller than regular letter size paper. The motif is a Japanese kanji character, Sara, meaning dish. And the finished object is a repeat of 3 motifs horizontally and vertically. So there's a total of 9 motifs in this finished object. If you want, you can adjust the size by increasing or decreasing the number of repeats. Okay, so here's what you'll need in order to proceed with this knit-along. First of all, you'll need a knitting pattern. There are already more than 1,000 people who have downloaded my pattern, so I hope you are one of them. If not, you can find a link to the pattern on Ravelry and Lovecraft. Please go ahead and purchase the pattern. It is sold for one low payment of $2. Next is required techniques. So I will assume that you already know the following basic knitting skills: long tail cast on, knit, purl, and bind off. Simple enough, huh? As an option, it would be nice if you have some knowledge or experience with color work, whether it's stranded or ferrule knitting, mosaic knitting, brioche knitting, etc. But that is not a requirement. I will walk you through the necessary techniques for you to complete this project. So the next thing is the material you need. You will need 2 contrasting colors of worsted or medium weight cotton yarn. On my pattern, I'm suggesting you use Lily Sugar and Cream yarn. So this is a ball band and 2 different colors. One is hot green and the other is bright navy. For those of you in the US, I checked Michael's and Joann's websites. They should have this particular brand for sale, but it looks like they are out of stock on the bright navy color. If that is the case, you can choose another dark bluish color like indigo. If you are overseas and cannot find a particular brand, you can choose any worsted or medium weight cotton yarn. Check to make sure it's machine washable and dryable. Some of y'all may not want to work with cotton for whatever reason, and it's understandable. Cotton usually has no grit or elasticity, so it's very rigid and hard. And it can be hard on your hand if you have dry skin or joint pain. If that is the case, you may substitute it with another plant-based yarn like bamboo or linen, or find a cotton blend that's blended with elastic material like spandex, or maybe even nylon or rayon. Or you may even choose to use non-pilling acrylic yarn. but you probably want to stay away from wool or other animal fibers, because why would you want to dry your dishes with animal hair? So here's some of the possibilities. Let's see. This one is called 24/7 Cotton by Lion brand. And it is cotton, but it's mercerized cotton, so it's a little bit shinier and smoother on hand. So this is machine washable, and dryable. 24/7 cotton. Okay. Next one is Cotton Bamboo by Lion Brand's LB collection. So it's a blend of cotton and rayon from bamboo. So 52% cotton, 48% bamboo. And it's machine washable but not dryable. It says lay flat to dry. And this is a lot more elastic than regular cotton. So I used to love working with this yarn. The colors are nice and bright, and it's easy to knit. So this is Cotton Bamboo by Lion Brand's LB collection. Next one is Cascade Yarns Fixation. So it is 98.3% cotton and 1.7% elastic. I think it's spandex. And it is machine washable but not dryable. And it's actually this headband that I'm wearing is made with fixation. So it's very elastic. I like it. Again, it's Cascade Yarns Fixation. If you are a yarn snob, shame on you. I'm just kidding. You might want to consider wool and agains. This is Shiny Happy Cotton. And it is 100% wool. 100% cotton. So there's no elasticity, but it's kind of soft, nice and soft on your hand compared to this cheap sugar and cream yarn. So this is Wool and the Gang Shiny Happy Cotton. Here's what I'm thinking of using. This is, I think Hooked is a brand, and the name of the yarn is called Somen. Somen, by the way, is Japanese angel hair pasta. And this is machine washable. No, actually this is hand wash only and lay flat to dry. But I got this yarn at this year's Vogue Knitting Live back in January, pre-coronavirus. And I liked it. It looks very sophisticated and nice and rustic colors. So this is what I'm going to use for this knit along. And I think it's a brand from Netherlands, if I remember correctly. And some other possible yarn that I found in my stash. This is Debbie Bliss Conway Bliss brand KAL. I don't know if it's still in production or it might be discontinued. But this is 62% cotton and 38% polyamide, so probably some kind of plastic. This is Universal Yarn Clean Cotton Big. It's 100% reclaimed fibers. And I'm assuming it's all cotton. Oh no, it's actually 85% cotton, 15% polyester. Okay. And it's bulky. Actually, it's super bulky. So the finished size will be much larger than with the suggested yarn. Let's see, this is Sublime brand and Soya Cotton DK. So this is DK weight, so a little bit thinner than the worsted weight. And again, I'm not sure if it's still in production or already discontinued. I got this from a friend's friend when she was doing a D-Stash event. And it is 50% soy and 50% cotton. And machine washable, but dry flat, so not dryable. I hope it gives you some ideas of possible yarn you can use. So again, worsted or medium weight cotton is best, but you can choose some bulkier yarns or thinner yarns like DK. And how much yarn you need? Not so much. The finished object using the suggested yarn weighs about 50 grams, or I think 1.7 ounce. So you only need approximately 25 grams of each color. I think the suggested yarn, sugar and cream, the original size weighs about either 50 grams or 75 grams. 2 ounce or 2.5 ounce. So if you get 2 colors of these, you should be able to make at least a set of 2 dishcloths, maybe 3 if you're lucky. And if you get a 100 gram or 3.5 ounce yarn like this, then you should be able to make a set of 4 dishcloths. Next, I want to talk about color. How can you tell if 2 colors are contrasting? So the easiest way is take a picture with your smartphone. You should have a black and white setting. And let's see. So if you look at it, if the color really stands out, then it's high contrast. So again, something like this. Yellow and blue is classic high contrast yarn. So you can see it's very, the colors are very different. Related to the colors, some of you may have something like this. This is a color wheel that has all spectrum of color. So as in general, if 2 colors are, two colors are on the opposite end of the spectrum, they call it complementary colors, then the chances are they are high contrast. So you can choose some kind of cooler color and mix it with some kind of warmer color. But there are some exceptions. Let's see, I think orange and blue may not be too high contrasting depending on the brightness of the color. Orange and blue looks like in black and white. And similarly, probably red and green also may not be high contrast. So my recommendation is yellow and blue, or even black and white. If you don't have a camera, you can pick one color that is closer to black and the other color closer to white. I would not recommend you to use multicolored yarn that has multiple colors. Like for example, this is like mulled yarn, marled yarn with multiple colors. This is a variegated yarn that changes colors. Or this is self-striping yarn, so it changes colors at certain intervals. Why? They may turn out okay, but there's a high risk that the contrast of colors get compromised and you will not be able to see the motif clearly. You'll need a set of knitting needles. They can be either straight needles like this or circular needles like this. In the pattern, I recommend US number 4 or 3.5 millimeter needles. One word of caution: do not use the recommended needle size on the yarn label. For example, this sugar and cream yarn, on the label it says they recommend US 7 or 4.5 millimeter. That might be okay on regular knitting, but this pattern calls for a technique called double knitting. And double knitting is similar to 1x1 ribbing. So it's a repeat of knit followed by purl. So knit, purl. And ribbing, if you know already, tends to be looser than the regular stockinette stitch. And that's why many hat patterns, they usually have ribbing on the brim, and they recommend using smaller needles, because if you use the same needles, the ribbing might be too loose. And the material of the needle, it's probably best to use some kind of wooden needle, like this, I believe, is a bamboo needle, rather than plastic or metal needles like this one. Why? Because cotton yarn, as I mentioned before, it has no grit, so it can easily slide off the knitting needle, if the needle is too slippery. For example, I was working on this swatch using this metallic metal needles, and look, it just slides off very easily. So if you want to avoid drop stitches, you might want to stick with wooden needles. And other than the knitting needles, you'll also need a tapestry needle like this one with a dull needle point, and also scissors to cut the end of the yarn. It might be helpful also to have some stitch markers, and so you can mark in between motifs, but it's not required. Okay, so that's all the requirements for you to begin this project, but a few more things before I go. I've been told that my speaking is very slow and soft and unclimactic. You may appreciate it if you're meditating, but if my speaking is too slow for you to knit along, you should be able to change the playback speed to like 1.25 or 1.5 times faster. So that's one tip. If English is your second language and my speaking is too fast, you can choose the slow speed like 0.75 or 0.5, but be warned that you might fall asleep because of my monotonous voice. And English is my second language, so if you find my English accent hard to understand, you can turn on closed captioning. I will prepare closed captioning both in English and Japanese. So if you are a Japanese speaker, you can read the subtitles in Japanese. Okay, that's it for today, y'all. So for the next 10 days or so, please make sure you have the knitting pattern in hand, your yarn of 2 contrasting colors, knitting needles, tapestry needle, and scissors. My next video will come out sometime on Thursday, November 12th. In that next video, I will be talking about swatching, everyone's favorite subject, right? So speaking of swatching, if you have nothing else to do before my next video, I suggest you knit a swatch. This is my work in progress. But just basic stockinette stitch. So knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, of say 25 stitches or maybe 30 and 30 rows. So you'll make about 10 centimeter or 4-inch square swatch. This is going to be different from the double knitting stitch, but it can be a good reference swatch so that you can compare single knitting fabric with double knitting fabric. Okay then, thanks for watching. Later y'all.